At this point in our course, we've mentioned stakeholder engagement a few times. We touched on it during our discussions on management frameworks and strategy. The concept of stakeholder engagement is pretty straightforward, that an organization should engage with all of its stakeholders, listen, respond, and collaborate. And the definition of stakeholder is also straightforward. It's any individual or organization that is affected or has a stake in an organization's achieving its objectives. And yes, that makes for a long list. We'll talk about how companies manage it. While it's a straightforward concept, there are important things for us to cover. In this module, we'll focus on 3. Number 1, during our review of frameworks, we defined stakeholder engagement as a best practice in corporate social responsibility. We'll review the steps that meet that best practice standard. And number 2, for corporate social innovation, stakeholder engagement means something very specific. There's a particular type of engagement required. So we'll define what it means to engage stakeholders if you're a company that has social innovation in mind. And number 3, we'll look at segmentation. Not all stakeholders are equal, so how do companies segment them and identify who are likely to be the best strategic partners? Let's review what it means to engage stakeholders at a best practice level in corporate social responsibility. It's easy for us to do. We can just use the series roadmap. Remember, it includes stakeholder engagement as one of its 4 categories, and it defines specific expectations for each of those categories. Here's the list. It's interesting to note that in earlier versions of the series roadmap, items 1 and 2 were combined. Materiality was not called out separately the way it is now. That change reflects the importance of materiality, which we covered in detail. The second expectation calls for substantive dialogue, that companies will systematically identify a diverse group of stakeholders and regularly engage with them on sustainability risks and opportunities. Numbers 3 and 4 call out specific groups, investors, and C-level executives who will be part of that substantive dialogue. And expectation 5 calls for strategic collaboration. Series expects companies who will collaborate within and across sectors and civil society to innovate, scale, and co-create sustainability solutions. Notice that it specifies strategic collaboration. It's an important distinction. We know from our review of Michael Porter's model that being strategic is about choice. So it begs the questions, which stakeholders are more strategic, and what's different about the process of engaging with these stakeholders? Let's first look at what's different about the process. As corporate social responsibility has taken hold, the approach companies now take to engaging with their stakeholders has changed for the better. But initially, it was typically company-driven, and mostly one way. Communication just from the company. Hey, we decided this, and now we'd like to tell you about it. So lots of energy and effort went into how to tell folks things, communications tactics. A lot less energy into dialogue. The goal was simply to inform. As CSR evolved, things have improved significantly. Of course, companies can't respond to every demand coming from that long list of stakeholders, but they can work to define a list of priorities that at least some of those stakeholders can agree on, and they can agree on a set of goals that would deliver real progress. A primary goal here is to manage expectations, to hear diverse perspectives, achieve a productive level of agreement on what's needed, what the company's impacts are, and what the company will commit to in order to improve those impacts. The result is a set of common expectations, which is a very solid foundation for collaboration and progress. To achieve that result isn't easy. It requires substantive dialogue, listening, and transparency. Here, the goal is to engage in a meaningful, substantive way. Now, with the emergence of social innovation, the terms of engagement with stakeholders changes again. Here's how. First, the overall goal has changed. The goal now is to fulfill the purpose of the company, to take concrete action to create new value from a specific issue and business opportunity. Second, the scope of the engagement also changes. It gets very specific. It's now about strategic intent, with a very narrow focus on the priority social issues we identified in our materiality process. And the engagement activities themselves change. They now go beyond substantive and open dialogue. Actions become more concrete, more granular, and more intensive. They now include the specific activities that are part of assessing customer needs, developing and delivering products that meet those needs, all the things that engage the full range of assets and competencies of the company. This might be a little glib, but in a very real sense, we've gone from engaging stakeholders to engaging assets. The net result here is to co-create. So to sum up, stakeholder engagement in corporate social innovation requires a different, more focused, and more intensive process. For the final part of this module, we'll look at how companies decide which stakeholders they need to make that more focused and more intensive process work, how companies segment their stakeholders. Remember, that stakeholder list is long, and when it comes to developing and managing corporate social innovation efforts, not all stakeholders are equal. To segment them, we can use a simplified version of a stakeholder model developed by the Natural Step. You remember in week 1, we reviewed the Natural Step's concept of 3 nested spheres to illustrate the interdependencies between the environment, society, and the economy. And here's their model for segmenting stakeholders. On the vertical axis is the degree of importance to the initiative, meaning, is the stakeholder likely to lose or gain from the company's actions on this particular sustainability initiative? On the horizontal axis is the degree of influence over the outcome of the initiative. Said differently, could the stakeholders' actions likely affect the success of the company's particular sustainability initiative? Now let's locate the different stakeholder groups. In the upper left are those stakeholders for whom the issue is important but have little power to influence the outcome. These folks stand to lose or gain significantly from the initiative but aren't likely to have much power over the outcome. In the lower right are those stakeholders who do have influence and power over the outcome, but for them, this particular issue is not very important. For both of these groups, the company needs to have a meaningful dialogue, listen, keep them informed, and try to manage expectations. Stakeholders in the upper right are the ones who offer the opportunity for strategic collaboration. They have a great deal at stake regarding the company's efforts on this issue, and they have the ability to influence the outcome, to contribute to its success or work toward its failure. These stakeholders are typically fiercely committed to changing the status quo. They have the knowledge, the expertise, and the network that are essential to developing any long-term systemic solution. From that long list we started with, these are the stakeholders that offer companies the best opportunity to engage on social innovation initiatives.